Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces virtual worship service. My name is Sarah Reyes and I will be today's moderator. Here's a couple of things that will help make your Zoom experience a little better. Number one, please keep yourself muted and your video off during the service and during the songs. Number two, we will turn off the congregation chat function throughout the worship service to minimize distractions, with the exception of a few certain sections that may require your feedback. Number three, the songs and doxologies will be available on your screen, or the song lyrics rather. Number four, to write in your screen, we encourage you to use your Zoom slider, as this allows you to choose what size that works best for you and your device. Finally, for best audio service, we recommend using headphones if you're alone or a Bluetooth speaker if you're in groups. Please enjoy today's service.
Good morning. I'm Catherine Massey, Director of Music, and I'm delighted to be with you today. Let's begin with Sarah Dan Jones's hymn, Meditation on Breathing. I invite you to sing with me in the Zoom way. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out.
Good morning. Our opening words today are from the Reverend Forrest Church, from his book Lifelines, Holding On and Letting Go. The lifelines that support us are not complicated in and of themselves. Each has two ends, the one we hold and the one that connects us to others. Yet human nature is such that we often manage to get our lifelines crossed. Sometimes we demand more of ourselves and others than either we or they are able to deliver. Harsh judgments, both inner criticism and criticism directed at our neighbors, estranges us from our source of connection. To secure both ends of our lifelines, two things are necessary: acceptance and forgiveness. Amen.
Good morning. The words for lighting our chalice this morning come from Forrest Church. The human outlook on life can be compared to a stained glass window. Each pane looks out on some aspect of our life: our vocation, avocations, our spouse or companion if we have one, our parents, our children, our health. We often take a pain for granted when it is unproblematic, but when one starts to go dark, the natural human tendency is to press our nose up against that one frame, desperately trying to see through it. When we do this, we lose all sense of proportion. Our entire world goes dark. We light our chalice in hopes of restoring the light that has gone dark in many window panes of our life. May this light help us step back from the single pane and see the whole window more clearly. Someone to be.
Edna K. Weichel died early Thursday morning on August the 5th. She was born in 1938 and lived 83 years. Surviving Kay is her husband, Dennis, two sons, David and Garrett Wade, two stepsons, Dan, married to Nancy, and Martin Weichel, grandchildren, and a great-grand. I've asked Sarah to post a link to Kay's obit so you can read a full account of her life at your leisure. Kay was very involved in many activist efforts throughout her life, and I can go on and on talking about all the great things that she did. But I want to focus this morning on her life here at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. Kay and Dennis came to Las Cruces and joined us right away and got active immediately. They joined the Snowbirds Covenant group, which includes Cindy and Gary Cockrell, who first said they visited with Kay and Dennis 2 weeks before she died, and Doug Loomer and Susie Osmer. And Doug was the one who called me to tell me that Kay had died, after which I called and spoke with Dennis extensively. So I was glad to hear that their connection with the Snowbirds really turned into a true covenant. Dennis and Kay were a part of the Lunch Bunch also, which meets on Wednesdays. Carl Cole, Tom Packard, Shirley and Bob Davis, and Madge DeFee often come to that group, and it was always great to see the Weichels come along. On their last visit to the church for the Lunch Bunch, Dennis and Kay came into my office for an extensive visit. Kay was very open and honest with me and wanted to share her concerns about her health. And it was clear after we talked about their plan of action with regard to getting her some good care that she may not return back from Wisconsin. But I was very grateful for that visit because it gave us a chance to get to know each other better, to learn how we could support each other, and formally to say farewell for now. To me, it was a rare display of courage, fellowship, and self-compassion. But what I really remember was Kay's passion for social justice and anti-racism. She and Trudy Gallegos, our former staff member, organized our first African-American read-in last February. And they were successful in making it a community event, which brought to our congregation, our doors, Dr. Karen Trujillo, the former Las Cruces School District Superintendent. We had the NAACP, and we had contribution from the university. And what I remember about that was Kay coming to my office several months before it began, maybe around December of 2019, and saying, this is an event that we did in Kenosha. We did it during African American History Month, and it had such a big impact on the community. And she said, we have got to do this. And she brought the materials for it. She gave me publicity material. We got together with Trudy and began networking around Las Cruces to make sure that we had a good attendance. But I just remember Kay's passion and conviction to see a person who was white to be so knowledgeable and in tune with anti-racist efforts and wanting to uplift African Americans and our broader community through this read-in where we brought people together from all walks of life to read African American literature, poetry, and so forth. It was very touching, and she really convinced me of its importance, and I was so happy to see that it went off so well. So this is something that I want to rename going forward to be the Kay Weichel African American Read-In. And I believe that we should take this on annually in honor of Kay. And I want to ask some of our most staunch anti-racist people in our congregation to help me make sure this thing goes off really well next year, which will be in February. And I believe that we have many people who knew Kay and wanted to spend time with her when she returned and enjoyed her while she was here. So I'm asking about 6 people to help spearhead the Kay Weichel African American Read-In. They include Walden Thomas, Olive Tanner, Jane Ash, Haney Pearson, Rosemarie Sanchez, and David Steele. I believe these people represent the best of our anti-racists. And I know we have many in our congregation, but I would like them to just help us get this organized. I spoke with Reverend Eric Carlson, the Weichel's UU minister in Kenosha, and he told me that they had a private burial yesterday and that the public memorial service will be held on Saturday, October 23rd at 11 a.m. Central Time, which will be 10 o'clock our time. And the church will broadcast the service online so we all can tune in. And if there's specific remembrances people want to share, they can include them in a pre-recorded video that they will play during that service. Okay. In our tradition, we have a ritual that we started here called the Flower Memorial. And I have my beautiful assistant here with me to help me with this. When we have new babies or kids in our congregation, we give their parents a rose that has no thorns in celebration of a new life. And when the kids come of age, we give them a rose that has thorns on it, which represents the thorny road of life. When our friends in the congregation members die, we do something different. We light a candle, put it upon the waters, and we take the yellow rose of friendship, pluck a few of the petals, and cast them upon the water. We do this today in honor of our beloved friend, Kay Weichel, for a beautiful, well-lived UU life. Amen, and may it be so.
Please join me in the recitation of our affirmation of covenant. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is our sacrament, and service is our prayer, to dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with creation. thus do we covenant with one another. And now please join us in the doxology singing.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and faith arise. Let peace, goodwill on earth be sung, through every land, by every tongue. They
Good morning and welcome to our continuing virtual worship service for the Unitarian Universalist Church of Las Cruces. My name is Brooks Lewis, and I am your service associate today. Unitarian Universalism has no creed or dogma. We are a covenant-based church, meaning that we agree to live in relationship with each other according to the UU principles and the congregation's covenant of right relations. As we begin our service this morning, we acknowledge there may be visitors among us. If you are visiting this congregation for the first time, we welcome you and know that there is a place for you here if this is where you want to be. It is a blessing to be here with you this morning. But I do have announcements. Given the recent uptick in COVID cases associated with the Delta variant and more restrictive warnings from local, state, and federal government public health officials, the UUCLC leadership and staff are undertaking a process of discernment regarding reopening. The dates may change. Stay tuned for more details. We are celebrating In-Gathering on Sunday, September 5th. In-Gathering is our UU kickoff for the church year, and this time a return to the new normal. The service includes a water ritual that symbolizes revitalization, reflection, and reunification as a faith community. We invite you to have your water ready to participate in the water ceremony. We will implement the Safe Opening Task Force recommendations for persons doing business on campus. The new measures emphasize wearing masks, maintaining physical distance, and using a new protocol to alert people of your comfort level with physical contact. Each person will receive a colored dot that lets others know their level of comfort with physical contact. Be on the lookout for new signage throughout the campus that helps everyone navigate the new normal. When we transition back to in-person worship, please bring your enthusiasm, but also your kindness, patience, and compassion towards one another. In addition, our board president, Susan Hitchka, has written a column in the August Light, and she outlines the guidelines for reopening. And additional information will be forthcoming, and everyone needs to be familiar with the steps we are taking to help keep everyone healthy and safe. Also, in preparation for reopening, we would like to convene a new task force to explore safety and emergency response on the church campus. We need volunteers, especially people with experience in emergency management. Please contact the office if you have such experience and would like to contribute to this effort. Welcome to our church today. It's a blessing to be with you this morning. And now we have time for all ages.
I apologize for the delay. We had some technical issues. Good morning. My name is Rihanna Thomas. I am a member of the Religious Education Committee, and I have our Time for All Ages this morning. Be who you are may sound like a simple thing to do, but it becomes more complicated when we recognize that each of us changes during our lifetimes. We learn new things, we make new friends, we move to new places, we take on new roles and responsibilities. In these situations, we discover new things about ourselves. We create who we are. And sometimes in these situations, when we're around new people or in new places, we feel pressure to act in ways that don't feel like a good fit. Sometimes a new friend group might want to show how cool and close they are by making fun of or excluding someone else. Sometimes the new experiences that are offered to us are not healthy or safe. Sometimes trying out something new or joining a new group helps us grow, but sometimes it keeps us small. One thing we can all do when deciding what will help us become our best selves and what may stand in the way of that is to remember what is important to us. What are our values? What do we believe is the right way to live in community with others? What are those things about who we are that should not change? When faced with a decision to try something new or to stand firm in who you are, you might use this mantra. I know my values. I try new things. I stand up for what I believe in. I am rooted and I am growing. While you're muted, will you please try this mantra with me? We'll go through one line at a time. I know my values. I try new things. I stand up for what I believe in. I am rooted and I am growing. Thank you. I hope you are all well and have a great week.
Thank you, Rihanna. Our opening hymn is a good old UU gospel hymn by Jeannie Gagne and Dennis Hamilton called I Know I Can. I invite you to sing with me.
One of the ways we support one another in community is through the sharing of joys and sorrows. Here are some sorrows that I found to bring today. The family and friends of Kay Weichel are in mourning. We lift them up. The victims of flooding in La Union in our own county in New Mexico are suffering loss of property. We lift them up. The families of the victims of the school shooting in Albuquerque are mourning, and we lift them up. Those who are suffering from illnesses in our families and in our world, we lift them up. Those who live on the streets in our community of Las Cruces, we lift them up. But there are joys as well. The joy of knowing that there are volunteers who are serving the houseless community in Las Cruces. The joys of knowing medical professionals who are serving others in facilities. And the joy of water in the Rio Grande Valley. I light this candle for the joys and sorrows that were expressed and for those that are still within our heart that we hold yet too closely to share.
Amen and Ashe. Thanks, Brooks. Catherine, for great accompaniment this morning. Before I pray, I invite you to pray and meditate with me. I do want to say that my biggest prayer today is for people to get vaxxed or vaccinated. And I want to just say a few words just to kind of clarify or maybe add some context to what Brooks said about the preparations we're taking for reopening. There's been a lot of concern and talk about what are we going to do? Well, it's become clear that the pandemic now is a crisis for people who are unvaxxed or unvaccinated. In an article in the New York Times by Aaron Carroll, the chief medical officer of Indiana University, he reported that fewer than 1,200 vaccinated people have died of COVID-19 as of July 19th. However, over 97% of the people who are hospitalized are unvaccinated, and that's according to the CDC. There's less than a 1% chance of breakthrough infections for people who are fully vaxxed. So the issue here is clear that vaccinations is the thing more than anything. It's not about masks or social distancing, which are two very important measures that we must continue to advocate for. Another article written by Sema Segayer, a professor at the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, and Aaron Dunlap, a research scientist for Sargo Ventures, pointed out that an important data source called the COVID-19 Community Vulnerability Index. This index uses data from Johns Hopkins University and breaks down county by county how vulnerable communities are to COVID-19. I went to that index and I looked it up. And I found that from May 1st to August 1st, Doña Ana County was not a COVID hotspot due to the vaccinations and before the new variant came on the scene. However, in the last 2 weeks, the county has returned to hotspot status with more than 10 new cases per 100 people per day. The overall vaccination rate in the county, that is, the people who have received a full dose of the vaccine, stands right now at 47.8%. So as Mr. Carroll of Indiana University said, the new cases and the hospitalizations are occurring because too many people are not immunized. So I want to encourage us by saying that we must follow the safe opening task force protocols on campus. Whenever you come to campus, we must follow those protocols because the risk remains with people who are not immunized. In my household, we have traveled out of the state and out of the country, as you know, and both of us are fully immunized. And we have both retested over and over again. We retested last week and we both are negative. When I surveyed the local congregations in Las Cruces, I noted that our partner churches, the synagogues, the temple, and the mosque have already reopened for in-person services. This includes Peace Lutheran, Temple Bethel, Bethel Second Baptist Church, St. Andrew's Episcopal, and several others. So it appears that we're the last among those to reopen. And we now have done, I believe, our due diligence to minimize the spread. I also consulted with our Pacific West Region Congregational Life Lead, the Reverend Carlton Smith, who joined us in service back in the early part of the pandemic, and our colleagues at Orange Coast UU Church, who are already worshiping in the dual platform mode. And I spoke with Reverend Angela Herrera at the Albuquerque UU Church, and they're starting on September 12th. So I believe we can encourage people who have only been vaccinated to come to services when we reopen. We're not asking for vaccination passports or proof of immunization, but we do want to be as careful as we can and ask that if you're coming to church, make sure you are fully vaccinated. This, I believe, is what I pray for, is that people in our community continue to encourage those around them who are not vaccinated to please get vaccinated for the safety of those who are still at high risk. So I invite you to pray for me. And I pray, Spirit of life, Spirit of love, and all that is beautiful in this world, to help us encourage others to be safe. We pray for those in areas that are affected by the shooting, the earthquake, the flooding, the deaths around us, and pray for all those who mourn and grieve. We also lift up the joys in our lives. We're thankful for this beautiful rainy season that we're experiencing. And I pray that this congregation will hold fast, be safe, trust one another, love each other, and continue to convey love in all we do as we go out into the community in a big mission to change and transform life and justice in Las Cruces and beyond. Amen, Ashe, and may it be so. Amen.
Our reading this morning comes from Northern Forest Church. He begins by reaffirming his belief that death is a central motivator of religion. The questions death causes us to ask are at heart religious questions. Where do I come from? Who am I? Where am I going? What is life's purpose? What does all this signify? But he went on to say, death is not life's goal, only life's terminus. The goal is to live in such a way that our lives will prove worth dying for. And that leads to his books and his career's second theme. This is where love comes into the picture. The one thing that can't be taken from us, even by death, is the love we give away before we go. He put his illness into perspective by comparing the human outlook on life to a stained glass window. Each pane looks out on some aspect of life, our vocation, avocations, our spouse or companion if we have one, our parents, our children, our health. We often take a pane for granted when it is unproblematic, but when one starts to go dark, the natural human tendency is to press our nose up against the frame, desperately trying to see through it. When we do this, we lose all sense of proportion. Our entire world goes dark. How easily this tendency kicks in when we're dying. With our nose pressed up against the one pane we can see nothing through, all our other lights go out. We then invest our life's remaining meaning in that which may be impossible, namely, beating our sickness. Nothing else matters. We may so obsess on our sickness that we lose appreciation for all those things in our life that we would dearly pray be returned to us if someone suddenly snatched them away. Instead, Church chooses to focus on a mantra that he developed before discovering his cancer. Do what you can. Want what you have. Be who you are. So may it be.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
for the selfishness that set us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin
For those and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Thank you, Sarah, our tech guru, for your great behind the scenes work, as always. And thank you for the rest of the worship team and all of you who are here to join us this beautiful August 15th in 2021. I've been doing a sermon series of sermons by my favorite colleagues, and this one today, Be Who You Are, is from the Reverend Peter Friedrichs of the UU Church of Delaware in Media, Pennsylvania. When I think about this service, I realize there are many synchronicities here throughout the service. Sarah Dan is the author of the opening hymn, who I served with when I was in North Carolina on an occasion or two. She's a beautiful person who's a true gifted musician, friend of Catherine's. And Dennis Hamilton, who also authored one of our first hymn, was my mentor when I was in Dallas, or one of my mentors. He served at the Horizon UU congregation there in northern part of Dallas. And as I was talking to the worship team before the service, where I practiced, we talked about Orange Coast UU Church, was this in California, and the music director there is a close dear friend of Catherine Massey. I first met Peter Friedrichs at a GA, it must have been at least about 8 years ago. And his congregation had done this really beautiful program of enlisting volunteers in the congregation. It was very impressive. They interviewed every member of their church, which is about the size of ours, and did a full inventory of every person's skills and talents and how they wanted to serve the church, so that they always had volunteers. And I connected with him. We talked about it and tried to do that in another congregation I served. But I saw him last, which was about 3 years ago. I was at his church preaching, and I said, well, how is the volunteer program going? He said, well, it went well for a little while, but now we're back where we started. So it's hard to get volunteers, and I just appreciated that he had gone through such an extensive process to try to build up their volunteer base. Before that, I saw him in our last in-person GA. He was there with the former minister from El Paso when they had a minister. And that minister now is serving in Pennsylvania also. The last synchronicity is that this sermon about Be Who You Are, preached by Forest Church, was also preached at a GA. And I happened to be there and hear that beautiful sermon. And I too was really changed and moved by Forest Church's words. He's a beautiful minister. So I want to share with you Be Who You Are by Reverend Peter Friedrichs. The Reverend Dr. Forrest Church served as the spiritual leader of the All Souls Unitarian Church, Unitarian Universalist Church in New York City for nearly 30 years. During his ministry, the church became both a haven for spiritual seekers and a beacon of social outreach to the community. During his lifetime, Church authored and co-authored nearly 20 books on the topics ranging from American history, which I preached from one on July 4th, to liberal religion and spirituality. When he was called to All Souls, membership hovered around 100 congregants, and when he left it, exceeded 1,000. By all measures, Church's ministry was public, prolific, and powerful. But as with all of us, frail and fallible human beings, Forrest fought his demons too. In the year 2000, he acknowledged his alcoholism, joined AA, and remained sober for the remaining years of his life. He faced other struggles as well, and what perhaps made him a popular pastor and preacher is that he faced those struggles head on, and he used them to inform his ministry. In February 2008, he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer, and the doctors expected him to live but a few more months. With this death sentence in hand, Forrest did what he did best, and he picked up his pencil and paper and began to write. The book that resulted from these efforts is called Love and Death: My Journey Through the Valley of the Shadow. In that book, Forrest Church revealed a mantra, similar to the one that we heard from Rihanna this morning, that he had come to live by later in his life. It is, want what you have, do what you can, be who you are. Want what you have, do what you can, and be who you are. As a summary of a philosophy, a theology, a statement of faith, and a way of life, these three statements warrant some attention. And so, in tribute to Forrest Church, a colleague whom I have never met, but whose words and life were inspirational to many, a colleague who died more than 10 years ago, I will spend this Sunday unpacking Be Who You Are. As a part of my seminary training, I spent a summer working as a hospital chaplain assigned to the psychiatric floor. I found it to be a deeply gratifying work, and I was able to build relationships with many of the patients. Some were long-term and others had a quick turnaround. Some were what we called, I quote, bouncers. These were people who would be admitted to the unit because of some behavioral issue. Oftentimes, they had simply gone off of their meds and needed to be restabilized, treated, and then released. But within a matter of a few days or weeks, they bounced back to the unit again. In the course of my 8 weeks at the hospital, some patients bounced several times. My favorite bouncer was Rose. Rose was a lovely woman who was about 80 years old, who suffered from schizophrenia. Rose would be brought into the unit very agitated and aggressive. But within a day or so, with the proper medications, she'd be sweet as a peach. Rose and I had many long conversations about God and love and heaven, and she was rock solid in her Baptist faith. During one of our conversations, Rose expressed to me her concern about all the people who were interviewing and examining her. she was tired of being treated like a lab rat and told me that she was afraid to talk to the doctors. I tried to reassure her that they were there to help her, and I suggested that she be honest with them in answering their questions. Just be yourself, I told her, and they'll take good care of you. Rose's response to my sage advice was a priceless gem that I'll never forget. Be myself, she said. Of course, I've got to be myself. Everybody else is already taken. While this witticism, I found out later, has been misattributed to Oscar Wilde, I'd not heard it before. In his writing, Forrest Church admits of his 3 admonitions: want what you have, do what you can, be who you are. Be who you are is the hardest task of all. Simply put, he tells us to be who you are is not to, quote, fake your existence. He writes that each of us is unique with a unique flaws and gifts. The world doesn't owe us a living. We owe the world a living, our very own. In Love and Death, Church tells of the opportunity he had as the son of the US Senator Frank Church to enter politics while he was still working on his doctorate in theology. After running his father's presidential primary campaign in Nebraska, the son was ready to jump into the father's footsteps and run for public office himself. Fortunately, he listened to his father's advice to live his own life, not the life his father had led. And in doing so, writes the younger Church, I found my calling. I answered a call that was mine and not someone else's. He goes on to tell us to envy another's skills, looks, or gifts rather than embracing your own nature and call is to fail in 2 respects. In trying unsuccessfully to be who we aren't, we fail to become who we are. Be who you are. As Rose pointed out, it's a rather inane concept. Of course, we are who we are. We are who we are because everyone else is already taken. But if it's so simple, then why do we spend so much time of our lives trying to be who we're not? Trying to be like someone else, or trying to be the someone that someone else thinks or wants or makes us believe we should be. Consider for a moment our childhood and how we learn most of what we come to know. Although our intellect develops the ability to discern and debate, our most basic form of learning is emulation. Or to put it in its simplest terms, copying. Like a giant game of follow the leader, we grow up watching what others do and observing the outcomes. If we like what we see, we try to do the same in hopes of gaining a similar result. From a very early age, we are wired to be like rather than simply to be. For some of us, this message was explicit. Why can't you be more like your brother, sister, cousin, fill in the blank? Our media convince us that to be accepted or happy or successful, we need to act a certain way, drive a certain car, marry a member of the opposite sex. There's a reason that the Rolling Stones song Satisfaction is still going strong a half century after its release. It speaks in part to the futility of trying to be the person that someone else thinks we should be. When I'm watching my TV and that man comes on to tell me how white my shirts can be, but he can't be a man because he doesn't smoke the same cigarettes as me. I try and I try and I try, but I can't get no satisfaction. Role models are invaluable for us on both a societal and an individual level. They serve to inspire us and to motivate us to consider what is possible. And there are certain traits or aspects of others that we should try to emulate. When I grew up, Superman and Batman were all the rage on TV. And who can argue that we shouldn't work for truth, justice, and the American way? The danger comes, of course, when we try not just to be like our role models, but to become them. This is a recipe for disaster, a formula for failure. Neither you nor I ever will be more powerful than a locomotive or capable of leaping tall buildings in a single bound. So when we try to be like Mike, remember that Michael Jordan commercial, we are destined for disappointment. Even if it's not superheroes or pro athletes, we try to model ourselves after. In Forrest Church's case, he came close to making the mistake of trying to become like his father, the powerful Senator Frank Church of Idaho. Sometimes the influences that exert their power over us are more subtle than this. We grow up in a family of achievers, and although nothing is explicitly stated, we incorporate the message that much is expected of us. A parent's well-intentioned action sends a signal of what they hope for us, and we receive the gesture, consciously or subconsciously, as a mandate. If you hear things like, "You're so good in math, you should become a scientist," enough times a child, as a child, you're a scientist, and that your passion for dance or music or social work is misplaced. By the same token, if you over and over hear the message, "You'll never amount to anything," that too becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The forces that dictate against us being and becoming who we are, powerful and many. To be who we are can be like swimming upstream against a strong current of expectations of what I call the tyranny of the shoulds. And as if these forces aren't enough to defeat us, to be who we are is made all the more challenging by our lack of self-knowledge and self-awareness. Perhaps the greatest challenge to living into Forrest Church's mandate to be who you are is discovering just who and what that is. Living in the 21st century America, most of us are blessed with lives of comfort and relative ease. And so we can ask the question, who am I? And what do I want to be when I grow up? Many of us spend years of our lives and thousands of dollars in therapy searching for the answer to these questions. And in finding them, some of us follow our bliss, to use Joseph Campbell's term, while others, constrained by factors such as fear, family, or finances, remain living a life that is not our own until our days run out. In his book, Let Your Life Speak, author and educator Parker Palmer tells us his journey of discovering his true self. He calls the true self the self planted in us by the God who made us in God's own image, the self that wants nothing more or less than for us to be who we were created to be. To embark on the journey to discover this God-given self takes courage and commitment. It is a risky business. It requires us to shed the mask and the costumes that populate our closets to strip down to our naked selves and to take a close look in the mirror. There we are called to see ourselves, and perhaps more challenging yet, to claim ourselves, warts and all. Palmer puts it this way: I know myself to be a person of weakness and strength, liability and giftedness, darkness and light. I now know that to be whole means to reject none of it, but to embrace all of it. This might seem like terribly narcissistic navel gazing, but it is imperative that we discover our true selves and claim our wholeness in order to fulfill that other mandate we received from Forest Church: do what we can. When we fail to discover our true selves, when we cling to the personae that are nothing more than the mask we wear for the fulfillment of the expectations of others, it is easy to simply remain victims of our own condition. We are disempowered puppets, actors playing out a script not of our own making. We blame God or our parents or our partners for our circumstances. But when we do the hard work of discovering our true and authentic selves, of claiming our whole selves, we are called to live into those selves. Embracing one's wholeness, Parker Palmer writes, makes life more demanding, because once you do, you must live your whole life. You must, in the words of Forest Church, be who you are. To be who we are is to offer the world the greatest gift we can give. To invest our lives in all that we do with sincerity, authenticity, and deep commitment leads us into relationships with other authentic selves. And in entering into those relationships that are sacred in the true meaning of that word, we cannot help but bring our collective power to bear against the forces of injustice, hatred, and oppression. When we all live into our authentic selves, we will create a collective wholeness that will heal not just ourselves, but the entire world. This day and every day, I wish you peace. Amen and Ashe.
One of the ways that we support our congregation is through giving of our gifts. If you wish to make a contribution to the church, there is a link in the order of service so that you can do that. Our Change for Change beneficiary for this quarter is El Calvario Immigrant Resource Center, a program located at the El Calvario Methodist Church, which provides hospitality for immigrant families who have recently crossed the border and are on their way to family or sponsors in the interior. They also assist immigrant families in our county to access local resources for housing, healthcare, legal assistance, and emergency food. They provide Know Your Rights education and have been able to grant some financial assistance to families who were not eligible for help during the pandemic. We usually pass around a basket and people put their change in the basket, but we can't do that today. So if you wish to make a contribution to Change for Change, please send a check to the church, and on the check, write that it's for Change for Change.
Julian, do you not know? Do you not know about pain? And I said, Julian, do you not know? Do you not know about hunger? And Julian, do you not know? Do you not know about shame? But she said, all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. I said, Julian, do you not know? Do you not know about loneliness? And Julian, do you not know? Do you not know about disease? And I said, Julian, do you not know? Do you not know about cruelty? I said, Julian, it's too much. It brought me to my knees. But she said, all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. And she said, no one does not know about sorrow. And no one does not know about pain. She said, no one does not know about hunger. No one does not know about shame. And she said, all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. And she said, no one does not know about loneliness. And no one does not know about disease. And she said, no one does not know about cruelty. She said, I know it's too much. It brought me to my knees, where I heard, all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. I said, Julian, you are holy. You are holding my hand. And Julian, you are holy. You are holding my hand. She said, all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. And she said, baby girl, do you not know? Do you not know about tenderness? She said, baby girl, do you not know? Do you not know about friends? And she said, baby girl, do you not know? Do you not know about the spirit? She said, baby girl, do you not know? It's only love that never ends. And so all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well. And so all will be well. All will be well. All manner of things will be well.
If you're looking for a spiritual home and feel you're sympathetic with Unitarian Universalist values and principles, then this is the place for you. The way that you join the church here is to sign the book, but we can't do that today. So we have a site on the order of service and in the chat where you can contact someone on the membership committee who will contact you. And the next thing you know, you'll be in one of these little squares too.
Our closing hymn is a song with words written by our UU jazz friend Jim Scott. May Your Life Be as a Song. And you can hear yourself sing and you can hear me sing. So you can make a little round with me if you would like. Let's sing it together and then I'll show you when to come in and hear a little bit of harmony there. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. Do we have words to put up there, Sarah? It might be helpful. If not, I'll just teach them. It's may your life be as a song. There we go. Excellent. That makes it easier. I always lost track of it when I was trying to sing with him. All right. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. Make it around. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night. May your life be as a song, resounding with the dawn, to sing awake the light and softly serenade the stars, ever dancing circles in the night, ever dancing circles in the night.
Thank you, Catherine and Brooks. I have to say, when you said that you get lost, it reminds me of Simone Biles, who said that she gets lost in air. So it helps to have a clear path to follow when you're in these artistic things and being a creative. Also thought about the mystic doing the writings of Julian of Norwich in the song. When I was finishing my dissertation and getting ready for my comprehensive exams before my dissertation, one of my colleagues said, Kalani, this is going to be the pinnacle of your knowledge. From here, it's all downhill. And once you take that exam, you just expunge all the things that you know. And sure enough, I remember Julian of Norwich because I did a chapter on mysticism, but all I can remember now is those words, all will be well. So it was true in some sense of the words. Our closing words today are from Parker Palmer, and we have Forest Church. Palmer says, our deepest calling is to grow into our authentic selfhood, whether or not it conforms to some image of who we ought to be. As we do, we will not only find the joy that every human being seeks, we'll also find our path of authentic service in the world. And from Forest Church, his book, Lifelines, Holding On and Letting Go, he writes, it is possible to establish sustaining human bonds, but to do so with any degree of security, we must first accept our human foibles and forgive others theirs. Since everyone fails, suffers, grieves, and dies, this should be simple. But our nature is to make things complicated. Until we can accept this of ourselves and forgive others for it, no lifeline exists that will connect our hearts. Ashe.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing our flame. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot, thou hast taught me to say, it is well, it is well with my soul. It is well with my soul, with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul. It is well, it is well with my soul.
Okay, and now I will be opening the breakout rooms. Thank you, everyone.